So hello everyone, welcome to How to Do Accessible Social Media. My name is Annie Mannion and I'm Digital Communications Manager at AbilityNet, and I'll be running you through what you can expect from today's session. So just to go through a few bits of housekeeping, Daniel, if you could move on to the next slide, that'd be great. Thank you. So we do have live captions on the webinar provided by MyClearText. So thank you, Heather. You can turn those on using the closed caption option on the control panel. There are also additional live captions via streamtext.net. You can also access the slides for today at slideshare.net/AbilityNet and on our website at abilitynet.org.uk/social-webinar. If you have any technical issues and you need to leave early, don't worry, you'll receive an email with the recording, the transcript and the slides on Thursday. And depending on how you joined the webinar, you might find the Q&A window. If you want to ask Daniel any questions, do drop those in the Q&A area for us to address later on or after today's session in a follow-up blog on the website. We also have a feedback page that you'll be directed to at the end. So if you have any future topics you'd like us to cover in our webinar, do please let us know. For those of you who aren't yet familiar with AbilityNet, we support people of any age, living with any disability or impairment, to use technology to achieve their goals at home, at work and in education. And we do this by providing specialist advice, services, free information resources, and I'll share a little more about our services at the end of the webinar. Okay, great. So we're just going to, just before Daniel begins his presentation, I'm just going to start with the poll. So I'm just going to launch the poll now. So please could you tell us, what social media content do you mainly produce? Is it mainly blog posts or articles, microblogging or updates, tweets, status updates, photos, things like that, podcasts or videos, or all of the above? Depending on how you've joined the webinar, you may not be able to see the poll, but you can respond in the Q&A panel. So I'll just leave it a few moments for anyone that can see the poll on screen and wants to engage with it. Okay, just going to end the poll now. And I can see, so we've got 28, so 12% of you have said blog posts or articles, and then the majority of you have said, that's 51%, have said microblogging or updates, so tweets, status updates and photos. Just 3% share podcasts or videos on social media, and then 34% of you say all of the above. I'll just share the results there. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing the poll now and over to Daniel for some accessible tips for all of those items mentioned.
Thanks, Annie, for that wonderful introduction. Welcome, everyone. That poll was very interesting because there's definitely a lot of content today to do with the kind of microblogging, things like Twitter and Instagram, but also some things on video as well. So hopefully you'll find those useful. Social media is awesome. That's the first thing I want to say. It gives us a lot of power and a lot of potential to reach out worldwide and reach a diverse audience. There's about 4 billion social media users. That's about more than half the population of the planet. And at least 2.5 billion of those are using Facebook alone. It also has the potential to inform, educate and entertain. We've certainly seen that this year with the global pandemic. We've been able to keep in touch with friends and family, get news and updates and share advice and information. And we're always connected. It's kind of always on. Most of us have these smartphones where we can access the major apps, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. So we're always connected. But that potential, that power, doesn't come without a warning label. If we don't think about the people accessing our content and the particular access needs that they might have, we can unintentionally exclude. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about today will be highlighting things like particular disabilities, particular accessibility considerations, but actually this is for everyone. This is for all of us. If our bodies are constantly changing, our situations and contexts are constantly changing. So if we don't build that in terms of our designs and how we share our content, we're actually excluding ourselves ultimately. I'm going to be looking at 4 of the major social media platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. But I'm actually going to also break those down into what I'm calling kind of social content building blocks. So text, images, audio, and video. And hopefully by doing that, if there's a particular platform that I haven't discussed today, you can still take those principles away and apply them to that particular platform. So text. Text is the foundation of the web. It's in the very technology. HTML, Hypertext Markup Language, is built around this idea that we can connect through text. We can make a network of ideas. And text by itself is fundamentally accessible if we use it in the right way. So in terms of access needs, first of all, consider the complexity, the bar, the level of complexity you're setting when you're producing your text. Avoid making an assumption about the education, the literacy, or the knowledge of the people interacting with your content. Keep it simple, basically. Use simpler words, use less syllables, be direct and use active voice. So the government produced a report rather than a report was produced by the government. Avoid jargon and abstract concepts. Abstract concepts can particularly be difficult for someone who has aphasia, which is a speech and language condition, commonly following stroke. It doesn't affect intelligence at all, but it does affect the ability to both understand and produce language. In general, aim for a lower secondary education reading level. So that's sort of ages 11 to 13, or here in the UK, in England at least, it's kind of years 7 to 9 in high school. Consider language. We often use everyday terms without thinking, but those terms can come with their own biases and their own kind of meanings beyond the one in which we intended. Being mindful about what those negative connotations could be will avoid us from unintentionally excluding people. Think about common phrases that we might use, like blacklist, blind drunk, and think about how they just reinforce that negative stereotype of someone being somehow different or less than due to the color of their skin or whether they have a particular disability. Use gender inclusive language where possible. Don't always simply go for the kind of masculine default. And remember that gender itself is a spectrum. So don't fall into that kind of binary trap of he, she. If you can, depending on the context, it might be appropriate to ask people how they want to be interacted with. You know, what pronouns did they use, for example? There's an accessibility lead, Fen Slattery. They created a fantastic zine, Pronouns 101. It's on their itch.io page, and it just breaks down some of the most common pronouns and how you might want to use those. Avoid phrases that suggest victimhood, particularly when we talk about disability. Phrases like suffers from or wheelchair bound, they just reinforce that stigma that disability is a negative thing, it's something to be ashamed of, when that's not the case at all. A lot of disabled people are actually very proud of their disability. It's a core part of their identity. And avoid reinforcing existing stigma, particularly when we're talking about things like mental illness, mental health. Saying words like crazy or talking about using the term OCD to mean that you're very detail orientated. OCD is a real condition with real world an impact. So be mindful about using terms like that. Provide trigger warnings on your content. I might be scrolling through Twitter and find myself on a thread, and before I know it, I've gone through some tweets that potentially have content in them that's going to be very traumatic for me. So providing a trigger warning is quite common on Twitter to have TW or CW for trigger warning or content warning. just to ultimately give me the choice about whether I want to interact with that content. Think about your emojis and your symbol fonts. So emojis are a fantastic way to communicate, convey an emotion very easily and quickly, but they also come with their own inherent meanings, their own literal meanings. I have 3 emojis on this slide. I have grinning face, smiling face with hearts, and confused face. That third emoji doesn't say confused face to me. That says unsure or worried. But beyond that, the literal meaning of these emojis is something that will be picked up by assistive technologies. So a screen reader, for example, will announce the literal term of that emoji, the literal definition. That can make it very laborious if you fill your profile or you fill your tweet full of emojis. And with symbol fonts, this is where you see the sort of stylized, almost italics font, quite common in people's profiles, or you might see it in particular tweets to kind of highlight something. That's not a real font. That's a Unicode character that is not often picked up by assistive technologies. So often, if I'm using something like a screen reader, and it's not exclusive to screen readers, I will completely miss out on that information entirely. So general rule of thumb, unless your platform gives you built-in options to change your fonts, avoid copy and pasting fonts from another site like that, and be sparing with your emojis. By way of an example, I have a very short clip here of a Twitter profile that I created. I'm using some stylized text, some symbol fonts in the profile with a couple of emojis in there. And I've also got a tweet underneath that has the clapping hands emoji after every word to kind of signify a round of applause. And this is what it sounds like when you run over it with the VoiceOver screen reader, which is built into iOS.
Protected. At Chocolate 11Y. Cat face. Standing chick. Joined October 2020. 0 follow. Selected. Tweets. Button. Tweets and media. Likes. Chocolate. It's clapping hands. A clapping hands. Great clapping hands. Idea clapping hands. To clapping hands.
So the takeaway there, I hope it came across. In the profile, the stylized text, the symbol font, was not announced at all. The only things that we actually heard were the 2 emojis, cat face and standing chick. And again, those are quite literal descriptions. And then in the tweet, I had a sentence along the lines of, it's a good idea to wake up your owner at 3 o'clock in the morning. But after every word, I had a clapping hands emoji. So we very repetitively heard clapping hands, clapping hands, clapping hands. That's going to be extremely annoying, but also, potentially quite painful to someone navigating that content. Think about your hashtags. So a hashtag is a tag where we can tag up a particular word by putting a little pound sign in front of it. And it just means that if I write some content under that term and you write some content under that term, we can explore those terms to bring up all that content. But be mindful about how you write them. So I'm suggesting to write them in camel case. So capitalize the first letter of every word. Not only is it easier to read because I can distinctly see what the words are, it gives me breathing space. And if I'm using, again, something like Screen Reader, it will give you the pauses, the natural pauses between those words. You want them to be generally short, just in terms of readability. If they're too long, it's going to be very difficult to read them. And usually at the end of the post, I don't want to have to get through 7 or 8 hashtags to get to the content of your post. They'll typically be at the end. You can, like the example on my slide here about our TechShare Pro event from last year, we have a hashtag in the middle of a sentence. That's appropriate because it will be announced within that sentence as hashtag TechShare Pro. So moving on to images then. Obviously, we have lots of choices when it comes to sharing images. All the major platforms allow us to share images. They can be static images. They can be selfies you've taken with your phone. They can also be animated images like GIFs, for example. Provide image descriptions. So again, just as we can't assume the kind of level of literacy when it comes to our text, we can't assume that everyone will be perceiving our images in the same way. Now, that's not to say that someone might be completely blind. They may have some form of visual impairment, which means that they simply, rely on additional technology like magnification software, for example, or Potentially images are a bit too blurry, or they have, you know, like cataracts, that sort of thing. So again, trying to avoid assumptions here, don't think in terms of a binary, this person can't see my image at all, but image descriptions can be useful in the circumstance where someone is accessing them using assistive technology like screen reader. They can get the purpose of what that image is meant to convey. And I keep saying assistive technology because this is not just about screen readers. I mentioned that text is fundamentally accessible. If you're providing a textual alternative for images, that can then be repurposed. That can be sent to, for example, a refreshable Braille device for someone who is deafblind. It can be, you know, picked up by search engines. They can use that to, you know, semantically understand your content. And it can also be used by the web browser. If for any reason those images fail to load, at least there will be text there, so that the purpose of that image will come across. I'm saying here that most images on social media are informative. So typically in accessibility, we talk about images as being functional, informative, or decorative. The most obvious functional example is the logo on your website. Typically it's a link and it'll take you to your homepage. But we don't really have that option very often in our social media platforms. The images that we can put in there are going to be your selfies. They're going to be, you know, pictures of products, that sort of thing. So they're informative. So we want to provide an image description that conveys that information. On some platforms, and all the major platforms allow you to do this, and I'll show you how. It is easier than others. It's more obvious. On some platforms, it's almost hidden, unfortunately. Some of the platforms will do it for you. They'll provide, they'll take your image and they'll generate automatically generated alternative text. You need to review those because they're not fit for purpose. I have an image on this slide that's a picture of my cat. It's from Instagram. I used a similar image in the Instagram profile, and the automated text was blue sky sunglasses. So it was completely wrong. Keep it short and direct. Again, just like the hashtags, you know, get to the point, only tell me what's the most relevant information in that image. If I'm a sighted person, I can glance at that image and take away the key detail. I don't need to know, for example, that this image of my cat, the blanket has, you know, a pattern with 3 lines and circles. That might be too much information. And avoid redundant information. You don't need to say that it's an image. You don't need to say that it's a picture, because assistive technology like screen readers will already announce that kind of information. So on Twitter, as I say, the option is there to add an image description, also known as alternative text. When you attach an image to a tweet, there becomes a little button at the bottom. It's got a plus symbol and then capital letters ALT for alt, so add alt text. When you activate that, you get a text input where it prompts you to describe this photo. I will say that unfortunately the contrast on that input is very bad. It's very light gray text on a black background, but that's where you'd write your description. So I've got an example here of my cat in our garden, and I've written a description: black and ginger tortoiseshell cat sat on a white wall overlooking a garden of flowers. I could have gone beyond. I could have described the type of flowers. I could have described the neighbor's fence in the background, but I just chose to pick out what was most relevant there. Writing good image descriptions is as much an art as it is a science. So I'm not saying this is the best example, but I tried to, you know, keep it short, sort of 125, 140 characters, and get to the point of what it conveys. And when you post that image in the timeline, there'll be a little alt symbol signifying that that particular image has alt text. It's not available to me as a sighted user. I need to access it using something like a screen reader, which will be read out when I land on it. Instagram, very similar. So typically on Instagram, you choose your image, you then pick a filter, which I don't have that screenshot on this slide. And then just before you post your image, you get to choose, you know, you can add a caption, which appears below the image. You can add different accounts you want it to be posted to. But right at the bottom, this is on the iOS version at least, there's an advanced settings option. Again, very bad contrast. It's very light gray text on a white background. When you activate that, you get more options, and one of them is write alt text, and that's where you want to be describing your image. So I have another very short clip, just an example of that. I went through that process. This is actually from Twitter, but it should be the same kind of thing.
Chocolate. Hashtag cats. Hashtag torties of Twitter. Image. Black and ginger tortoiseshell cat sat on a white stone wall overlooking a garden of flowers. 9 minutes ago.
So it was the same image. It was on Twitter. The voiceover screen reader announced the hashtags that were as part of that tweet. Because I capitalized them, it said hashtag torties of Twitter as 3 separate words. And then it announced the description of the image, the black and ginger cat, tortoiseshell cat on a white stone wall. Facebook, again, provides the option. So it's slightly different depending on whether you're on desktop or mobile. So again, I've got some iOS screenshots here. I'm a little bit Apple biased, I'm afraid. When you upload an image on Facebook, you need to post the image first, and then above the image, there'll be 3 little dots. When you activate those, you get like an options menu. One of them is edit photo, and you can choose then to edit the alternative text. On desktop, I think it's actually called, it is called edit photo, but it's not in the dots, it's on the image itself. A little menu pops up. You can then add in your alternative text and then publish the image itself. Facebook, if you're on desktop, will give you an automatically generated image. And so there's an option to override that text. It doesn't appear when you're on the iOS app though. You need to enter it. So in summary for images, best practice on image descriptions rather. Keep it clear and concise, 125 to 140 characters. Be meaningful, the context matters. So the way I describe my cat on my personal Instagram feed is going to be very different to how maybe a pet adoption agency would describe it, for example, on their kind of business Instagram feed. Include the relevant information. So, you don't need to describe absolutely everything in the image, because even as a sighted person, I'm not going to take away all that information. I'm only going to take away what, in the context of the page, whatever it is you're trying to convey to me. And again, slight sidebar for kind of more functional images. If it's like a link that leads somewhere, describe the function, AbilityNet homepage. Give me the confidence about where that image is going to take me. Front load the important information. I mean, you need to write in proper sentences anyway. But again, just get to the point. I don't want to sit through a whole description to find out what's the relevant part of this image that you're trying to convey to me. Avoid redundant words like image of, picture of, because the screen reader will announce those anyway. And particularly on Instagram, it's quite popular, but I think it's also quite a good idea, both in terms of awareness, but also just providing information in multiple channels. Consider putting the description in the post itself. So you can put it as alternative text, but by providing it in the post itself, particularly for someone like me, I'm quite a visual learner. So just having that kind of redundant information of the image and the text just complements that. Thinking about your infographics, so like kind of illustrations where you're trying to like communicate an idea, often with like text and diagrams, and also images of text. As a rule of thumb, when we talk about accessibility, we say don't use images of text because they don't scale well, particularly with what we call raster graphics. So your PNGs, your JPEGs, because they are created from pixels. When I, for example, use either the zoom in my browser or maybe the magnifier on iOS, as I scale, the image will start to pixelate. And if it's text, it will become unreadable, unfortunately. That's not to say there's not necessarily a place for them. It's certainly a very popular feature of platforms like Instagram, obviously. So if you are going to use them there, it's quite common for like, branding and to put up little like, I think you can have 10 images in a row of like a kind of, you can create little tutorials that way. Think about your font choices, think about your color contrast, and also crucially, because it has text in the image, provide that text alternative that we just saw, provide that alternative text. In terms of font choices, sans serif fonts, so ones like Arial, Verdana, that don't have the curly tails, they're much easier to read. I also have an image on this slide that I follow this account, Recovery Connor, on Instagram. He very graciously gave me permission to use his image. He talks a lot about eating disorders and mental health. But what's really good about the way he's done his kind of title cards on Instagram is he's using this very emboldened font. It's a black font on a light white background. Every letter is a different shape. That is not only easier to read compared to some kind of more cursive and swirly fonts, it's really good for someone who is dyslexic, for example, because there's more to kind of hold on to there. He is actually dyslexic himself. And the contrast on that, I think it was 11:1 contrast ratio with the green background. That's way above the minimum that's recommended, which is 4.5:1 contrast ratio. Again, if I have low vision, or I maybe if I have color blindness, for example, it's not only about relying on color. Sometimes the colors themselves can be a bit washed out. Having that high level of contrast makes it easier to see. I'm not suggesting that this particular font is going to be perfect for every use case, obviously not. But do consider your font choices. Consider using particularly sans serif fonts that would be a lot easier to read. Also consider contrast for graphics. So when you're creating your infographics, your diagrams, the most important parts, the parts relevant to understanding, need to have sufficient contrast. So the contrast minimum ratio there is 3:1 contrast. And I say minimum, there are tools out there such as Color Contrast Analyzer to check the contrast. Try and supersede that minimum. That should be the very base level, but you want to comfortably exceed that. And again, if you have text in an image, make sure you're providing a text alternative so that if I can't perceive that image, but I'm using something like a screen reader, I can still get the access to that information. So audio and video. A lot of the major platforms now allow us to produce both audio and video. Firstly, I want to talk about transcripts, particularly when it comes to things like podcasts, where you are just providing audio only. If you're not providing that text alternative, you're not providing that transcript, and you're just relying on audio, if I can't perceive that, I might be deaf, for example, or I might simply be watching your video or listening to your video with sound off. I need that textual information in order to access the same content. I'm not, aside from YouTube, I'm not aware that many of the platforms provide access for transcripts. So Twitter, for example, had an experimental voice feature recently. I don't know if it's been popularized since, but it was purely voice tweets. So there was no transcript there. That immediately sets a barrier for the deaf community, for example. There isn't a set format for transcripts, but what you can do, for example, is provide a link in your tweet or put a link in your Instagram bio that links to like a Google Doc or links to your web page where you've got transcripts. The example I've got on my slide here is from the Ladybug podcast. I really enjoy listening to their show, but what they always do is provide a transcript. There's no set format. So here they've put the speaker names in bold text with timings and the paragraph underneath. You can do things like include headings, particularly if you're doing like a presentation like this, where you're talking about multiple topics. That might not be conveyed by the dialogue. So breaking your transcript up into different sections just makes it easier to read. And you want to describe not only the dialogue, but any important sounds, and also crucially, if it's a video, for example, with audio, any visual effects. You might be showing a how-to video, but not describing in the audio exactly what you're doing and saying things like click here. If I can't perceive that, I'm not going to have that reference point. The location will be completely lost on me. So providing that kind of description in your transcript is essential. And again, format the text, use punctuation, break it into paragraphs to support understanding. So as I said, YouTube does allow you to have transcripts. It actually produces them for you automatically. So when you post a video on YouTube, not only will it start creating automated captions, once those are available, a transcript will then be available. So anyone viewing your video can click there's three dots, seems a very common choice. Under the video, it's like an options menu, there's a open transcript option. And you'll get this side panel with transcript with the lines of each dialogue and the timestamps. And what's good about this particular player, is it's also interactive. So if you click on any of those lines, you can skip to that part of the video. It stays in sync. You also see this on TED Talks. So it's a really useful way of, what did he just say? You can just skip back immediately to the point of the video that you're interested in. And there's not, unfortunately, a feature to download the transcript, but you can copy and paste it into another document. That works as well. So best practice for transcripts, you are reproducing the dialogue. You can tidy it up. You know, if it's anyone like me, I say and ah a lot, so you can remove that kind of information. Break it into logical sections, you know, paragraphs, use bullet pointed lists if you need to, and make it easier to read, easier to navigate. Use headings. If there's maybe you're describing a topic and there's another article you want to reference, put the link to that article. And if you've got, like a podcast, especially if you've got multiple speakers, indicate who's speaking. And if it's relevant, how are they speaking? Are they whispering? Are they shouting? Are they, you know, is a particular emotion being conveyed? And again, describe any important background sounds and visual events. So captions is another form of text alternative, in this case for video. You are wanting to provide a text alternative for audio. So my wife, for example, is profoundly deaf. She relies on not only the transcripts for podcasts, but also the captions for video in order to interact with that content. She relies on lip reading. So sometimes with a video, it will be obvious what's being said, but you know, the character might be off screen, or they might have their back to the camera, or they might just be a very difficult person to lip read. So providing captions can be beneficial for someone who's deaf. But also bear in mind that it's not the kind of ultimate solution always for the deaf community. If someone is a full signer, so like a British Sign Language signer, English is not their first language. British Sign Language is a language in its own right, with its own grammatical structure and rules. So simply providing captions may not necessarily tailor to that audience. So bear that in mind as well. But again, it also goes beyond the deaf community. It is useful, for example, if you don't speak the language of the video, it just reinforces what you're hearing in the audio with text. It can be a very useful way of not only learning, but also understanding the content of what's being discussed. Like transcripts, you want to capture all the essential audio. So you're capturing not only the dialogue, but any sound effects, any kind of off-screen events, background music as well. Some of the platforms do provide automated captions, but you can't rely on those. You need to double check what those are before they go out there, because they can either be missing words or completely incorrect. And guidelines do exist. I've linked a couple on this slide. There's a service in America. I think it's Digital Media Captioning Program, off the top of my head. It's DMCP. They have a very good style guide about how to present your captions. Or we have our own BBC subtitling guidelines here in the UK, which also has really good recommendations for things like number of lines, how to break the lines so that they're easier to read, for example. And just a very quick sidebar on subtitles versus captions. You'll see the terms used interchangeably, that they're actually not the same. Subtitles usually just convey the dialogue, and they are intended for people who can hear the dialogue, but not necessarily understand the language. So they're good for translation. Whereas captions, as I was just saying, they include all the essential audio, dialogue, music, sound effects. They are intended for audiences who can't hear the audio. As I say, you'll see on the different social media platforms that they're kind of used interchangeably. I don't lose sleep over it, but just bear in mind there is a slight difference there. So how to add captions on Twitter? So Twitter has a media studio. I believe it's in the options menu now, but otherwise you can go to studio.twitter.com. It's also available through, if you're a developer, the Twitter API, or if you're a business, the Twitter Ads platform. And what it allows you to do basically is you select your video file, you navigate onto the subtitles tab, and you can then upload a subtitle file. And the format they require is something called a subrip file, an SRT file. It's basically just a text file. It just has a number for every line of subtitle, the dialogue, and then the timestamps. I will say I saw a lot of reports when this was first announced of people not having access to it, so I don't know if that has changed. So if you don't see this option, the other suggestion I'm giving here is to basically create your subtitles outside of Twitter, and ideally burn them into your video so that they are part of the video. They're permanent. It's what we call open captions. I've linked to an article here by Courtney Craven, founder of Can I Play That, a site that publishes accessibility reviews and guidelines for games. They created this article basically explaining how you can take captions from YouTube and burn them into your video using a service called Handbrake. When you upload that to Twitter, those captions will always be there. Instagram. Instagram is confusing because it has so many services for video. It has stories, which are 15-second long clips. You could put an image up, you could put a video up, and you can do as many as you want in a series, and they'll stay around on your profile for 24 hours unless you save them as a highlight so that people can reference them later. Reels is kind of Instagram's answer to like TikTok. It's like 15-second little clips with stickers and filters. Instagram Live, and then Instagram TV. Instagram TV now has automated captions. That's a very recent development as of, I think it was last month. You need to do a bit of work to get them. So in Instagram, you when you're publishing to Instagram TV, in the post itself, you need to go, similar to when we did the alternative text, you need to go to the advanced settings menu, and there's an auto-generated captions option there. Likewise, if I want to view videos on Instagram TV or in Instagram with captions, I need to make sure that in my Instagram settings, I've also turned on that auto-generated captions option. And then the last step that sometimes you need to do is, I've got an example here of my friend Ra. She was actually trying out the captions. You need to tap on the person's face. You need to tap on the video to get those captions to appear. They may not necessarily be appearing straight away. But for all intents and purposes, you know, they are okay. They serve a purpose. You can edit them, which is good, before you publish them. But yeah, Ra didn't use any special setup, and it was fairly accurate. Failing that, as I say, that's only for Instagram TV. There isn't, to my knowledge, an option yet within Stories or Instagram Live. What you can do in that scenario is, again, add your subtitles or captions before you upload. Lots of these services exist. I've linked a couple on the slide here. I've used Capwing, for example. They will basically take in your video, they'll auto-generate captions, they'll give you an editor to tweak them, and then you can download your video or download just the caption file if you want. There are also lots of services where, again, don't rely on an automated service. You can pay an actual captioner, just like we have Heather from MyClearText right now providing captions for us. They can turn around captions for you at relatively low cost very quickly. With something like Instagram Live, you can save out the video to Instagram TV, but unfortunately it doesn't then give you the option to add the captions, unfortunately. But you can download the video, burn your captions in, and then re-upload it to Instagram TV that way. Otherwise, there are apps that exist. So Clipomatic, Apple Clips. Clipomatic is popular because especially Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez used it quite extensively for her campaigns, and very accurate, but it is a paid app, whereas Apple Clips is a free app, so you might find some use in that. I've tried it myself, and it seemed fairly accurate. Facebook, again, slightly different depending on whether you're a business, you have a business page, or you have just your personal posts. On your personal posts, when you add a video, after you publish it, it will give you a notification to say it's processing, and then it'll tell you when that video is ready. Once it's ready, you can then edit that video, and in the options there's an option for captions, and you can upload that subtitle file. If you're a business page, there is also an option to auto-generate the captions. But again, you'd want to review those to make sure that they're appropriate. And YouTube is probably the one that we're all most familiar with that does provide this sort of thing. So when you add your videos to YouTube, they automatically start trying to generate automatic captions. It may not appear immediately, it can be a little while after. But what you want to do then is go into YouTube's Media Studio. So you want to go into your profile, select the Media Studio, and in the navigation, which is typically on the kind of left-hand side, there's a subtitles option. And in there, you will see the initial dialogue track, and it will say add because you don't have any subtitles yet. And once they're ready, you'll see the automatic captions track, and it will say duplicate or edit. When you select that, you basically get three options. You can choose to upload a file. You can choose to auto sync. So that's where you have a transcript of the dialogue, and it will then automatically work out the timings for you. You can otherwise choose to manually type in the captions and set the timings. And the last one is auto translate. That's if you created the captions, it will attempt to translate them into another language. So in the screenshots on my slide here, I've done that with one of my old videos using the automated captions, and I selected the type manually option. It's showing the edit transcript screen. So we can very quickly see there's definitely problems there. It's got lots of ums and ahs, there's words that are wrong. I can edit that, and then I can click assign timings, and I will see the next slide over where it's got the individual captions, their start and end times, and it's got a little video preview and a timeline. And there's keyboard shortcuts you can use here. So I can be typing in a caption, and I can press shift and space to play the video, hear the next bit of content, and have an option toggled that as soon as I start typing again, the video pauses. So it just sets it up in a really nice, quick way to help you produce captions quite quickly. YouTube does have live streams. As far as I understand from YouTube's own documentation, they only provide automated captions for live streams on channels with over 10,000 subscribers. And I believe what happens after that is those automated captions then get replaced by the standard auto-generated captions that will appear on your video after the event has taken place. Otherwise, you can do essentially what's happening here, where you have an external captioner. They'll have to use something called a decoder to send captions to your live stream while you're doing it. And I've linked on the slide YouTube's own document about what sort of setup you might need for that. And then failing that, there are services that exist to produce automated captions. One I've heard of, and it's free, is Web Captioner. It's quite experimental in its support for YouTube, but it basically picks up the audio and tries to live translate or transcribe rather your captions. So that's something worth exploring if you just want to explore adding captions into your live stream. So best practice then for captions, keep it clear, keep it consistent and accurate. You want to be true to the dialogue. You don't want to suddenly be changing the dialogue because you want to give everyone the same experience. Allow enough time to be read. I believe the guidelines on the BBC is something like 160 words a minute, I think it says. But if you look in those style guides, they talk about the specific kind of timings. Avoid obscuring visual content. So you'll see this on broadcast TV when there's like a sporting event. Sometimes the captions will be at the top of the screen. That's so that they don't cover over, for example, the scores or something that might be at the bottom of the screen, and vice versa. And usually no more than 2 lines per caption. You can sometimes get away with 3, but again, you don't want to obscure too much content, but you also don't want to give people too much to read as well. And write in proper sentences, capitalize your letters, use proper nouns for things and punctuation, and generally break, at the appropriate points. So like on a comma or end of a sentence as well. And again, convey not only the dialogue, but relevant sound effects, music, and the source. Lastly, in terms of audio and video, just want to talk quickly about audio description. So this is where you are providing an audio track to describe any visuals in your video that are necessary for understanding. The best practice here is to not need it. If you plan ahead and you know what content is going to be in your video, you can describe that with your dialogue, making audio description unnecessary. That's particularly relevant for things like a how-to video. So if you're demonstrating a technique, but you literally describe what you're doing and what features to be aware of, then you may not need audio description. And it's not necessarily always required where you've just got a single speaker talking into the camera with an unchanging background. There's no visual information there providing content necessary to understand the video. It's only dialogue. You would just need to be mindful about things like title cards that might be there. So providing either that in the dialogue or providing that as text around the video as well. And the key reason I want to mention this is YouTube has now, as of very recently, supports multiple audio tracks. So I've got a screenshot here from the Assassin's Creed Valhalla trailer, a video game trailer where they demoed this feature. And basically the option there on the video is to have not only the original audio track, but also a track that has the audio description within. So in the pauses between dialogue, you hear the audio describer describe the visual events in the video. So in summary, we've been through quite a lot very quickly. We've looked at text, we've looked at images, and we've looked at audio and video. If you're going to take things away from today, what can you do? Please always provide a text alternative for your images. I should have mentioned on Chrome, for example, I use an extension for Twitter that basically won't let me post an image unless I add the alternative text. I think it is actually called required alternative text. So do look that one up. In your tweets and your profiles, use legible fonts. Avoid using symbol fonts because they won't be picked up by assistive technologies. If you're going to use images of text, make sure there's sufficient contrast between the text and the background. And if you have things like illustrations, what are the key parts that are necessary for understanding? Make sure you've got sufficient contrast there between adjacent colors. Be sparing in your use of emojis. They can make our tweets look too busy and too full, but they'll also be announced by things like screen readers and make it very laborious to get through that content. Write your hashtags in what's known as camel case, so capitalize the first letter of each word. That just gives you the breathing room, both in terms of reading, but also in terms of the announcement by things like screen readers, much easier to understand. And please provide captions on your videos and transcripts on your podcasts, and where relevant, audio description as well on your videos. I'll end with some useful links that I've added on here. The Government Digital Service has a page about writing for disability, what sort of terminology is appropriate. I've also linked to a dictionary by an engineer, Tatiana Mack. It's called Self-Defined because it's full of all the terms that we use that may be problematic, potentially ableist, discriminatory. It's got appropriate content warnings on it, but it's a really good resource and it's open source, so please do add to that. I've also linked to the Stroke Association's guidelines on aphasia and how to present information in accessible ways, simpler text, complemented with images, that kind of thing. And then Twitter and YouTube, how to add image descriptions, how to add captions to their help files. Could not find a lot of information regarding Instagram TV's captions because it's very, very new. So I've linked to an article that basically describes how you would do automatic captions on Instagram TV. Thank you very much.
Wow, a whistle-stop tour of accessible social media. Thank you, Daniel, for all those practical pointers. So I'm sure you've all got a lot of questions you'd like to ask, and we've got lots waiting for you. I doubt we'll manage to cover all of them right now, so we'll capture your questions in a follow-up blog with answers, and we'll add those to our website in the next couple of days. So apologies if we don't get to your question right now. So I'm just going to pick out some of the questions for you, Daniel. So the first one, can descriptions be applied to GIFs as well?
Yes, as far as I know. If you're thinking of things like Twitter, yes, as far as I know, they can. So you should get the same option. In fact, yes, they definitely can. Yes, I've tried it. Yes. Okay,
great. Another question from Ruby. She knew about Twitter alt text, but not Instagram. Can you go back to previous Insta posts to edit them and add alt text?
So really good question. Thank you for mentioning that. Twitter, you cannot, and I hope that will change. Instagram, you can. So please do. You can go back and edit any post and change the alternative text.
Okay. Another question. If an image includes text and picture, which should be described in the alt text first?
Ooh. I think it really depends. That's so subjective. I mean, you have to think about the purpose of the image and with the text. You know, what is the most important information there that you're trying to convey? If it is the text that people should take away, and the image is just more kind of to give it kind of color and background, almost decorative, you may not even need to describe it at all. Then I would say prioritize the text first, but it really depends on whether it's an image or text. What's more relevant? Include both, obviously, if both are relevant.
Okay, a question from Rama. For automatic captioning and subtitles, they're usually pretty helpful in English-speaking videos, but do you have any suggestions regarding non-English speaking automatic tools?
I don't. That's a little beyond my area of experience. I'd be happy to do a little bit more research on that, but I don't know any tools off the top of my head, unfortunately. I said the only thing I came across was YouTube's auto-translate option, but I couldn't speak to how reliable that is.
Okay. Got a couple of questions on this topic. One from Priscilla. How can we make Instagram stories accessible?
Yeah, so Instagram stories have a lot of problems because basically it's like a slideshow. So it's got problems with timing already. You need to physically hold your finger on the screen to stop the slideshow. That causes issues for people with motor problems, but also the time alone can be a factor. I think there, if you're putting little clips in, as I say, you can record your subtitles elsewhere and upload them that way. I've seen people use the built-in text tools to add text around there. Be mindful of color contrast, just making sure, particularly when you're doing text, at the very top of the stories, it's not super obvious. There's a little square, I think it is, with a little A in it. When you tap that, it puts a background on your text, and you tap it a couple of times and pick different options to basically pick a dark color against your light text and vice versa to make good contrast. They're just some of the things that I think of at the moment.
Okay, just blitzing through the questions. A question from Carita. Will the alt text be shared too if we make alt text on Instagram and use the share option to Facebook, or do you need to rewrite it?
That's another good one. I don't know about Facebook. I do know that when you embed your Instagram photos in a website, no, the alt text does not pull through, unfortunately. That may change. I know that Instagram was writing recently about updating their API, which developers use, so there might be more options there. The only thing I would say is what does pull through is the caption underneath your Instagram post. So that's again another reason why it could be good to double up. I don't know about Facebook as such. I've actually done it a lot myself, but I didn't check before this whether it pulls through. I would expect at the very least the caption will, though. So try with the caption at least. Okay.
A question, the video you played of when the screen reader's describing the photos or tweets, is it sped up automatically, or does it read at that speed? Do you do that?
Yeah. So apologies. Yeah, so that was the speed on the screen reader. And to be honest, that is slow by screen reader standards. I am not a screen reader user. I use it for my work. It was simply at the time I recorded that video, that's what I set to, which for me at the time was a comfortable setting. But for the purposes of this, it was maybe a little bit too fast. So yes, you can, and it's built into iOS, you can change the speech rate on all screen readers, but you can on the voiceover screen reader as well. So you can make it slower if you need to.
Okay. A question from Karis. Can you edit the auto-generated transcripts on YouTube? A lot of people have trouble with the auto-generated closed captions on YouTube not being close enough to the actual audio, she mentions.
Yeah, so as far as I understand it, the transcript is literally just from the captions. They come straight from the captions. So I know I showed it very briefly, but if you go in to the subtitles menu and edit your caption track and select the actual, I think it's called transcript, the part where it just shows the text, if you edit that text will be pulled through into your captions. I've not seen anything to say otherwise. That it doesn't seem like they provide a separate transcription option. It's simply whatever you provide for your captions gets put together into a wall of text and pulled through into the transcript. So yes.
Great. And also on subtitles or captions, what is the recommended text size for them on videos for social media?
I think it all comes down to percentages, about percentage of the screen size, because obviously you'll be viewing on different devices. Here I would suggest looking at like the BBC subtitling guidelines. That I don't have an absolute figure for you right now, but do look at their subtitling guidelines. It is worth mentioning, I am actually doing a session on accessible video I think it's currently scheduled for December, that you may wish to join. I'm intending to go through a lot more detail in terms of captions, so that is the kind of thing that I would want to be including in there. But yeah, I think it's a particular percentage of the screen size is what I can think of at the moment.
Okay, I've seen people using image descriptions within the caption of Instagram images. Is there any advantage to doing that over using alt text, or are both useful for different reasons?
I don't necessarily think both are useful for different reasons. I think there are advantages, as I said, in the sense of, it kind of raises awareness because people will start to question why you write in image descriptions. So even if you know nothing about disability or accessibility, you'll then think that's something I should be doing as well. But also it's providing something in two channels of information, and essentially doing that, providing that redundant information, just helps different learning styles. It just helps people accessing your content in different ways. I think until our platforms are a little better, it's quite a good idea to be adding that redundant information there, just in case, back to the example of where maybe the alt text on the image doesn't pull through to another service, for example. So I certainly wouldn't advise against it. I don't see any negative issues there. It is a bit repetitive, but I think the benefits outweigh that negative.
Okay, and I think maybe one or two more questions. We're limited to the platforms adding more accessibility features. What more do you think is needed or currently missing from the corporations, and how can we influence them?
Yeah, that's a big question. I mean, and I wanted to have a slide that basically just said, raise your voices about this, get on the accessibility hashtags, tell Twitter and Instagram and Facebook when things aren't up to scratch. YouTube, for example, recently removed their community contributed captions because it wasn't getting used. But the argument there is it wasn't getting used because people didn't know about it. It was hidden. So I think these features need to be much more visible. They're not special features. They actually benefit all of us. So just make them the default, make them part of the options. There are studies that have shown that when captions are enabled by default, people don't turn them off because, again, it reinforces the information, having it on multiple channels. Yeah, it's a really big topic. I think more consistency across platforms for one thing, and just more kind of interest. And you've seen in some of my screenshots there, for example, even in the accessibility features themselves, they're inaccessible. They have poor contrast, small fonts, they're hidden away. Yeah, there's a lot more I could say on that topic.
Okay, well, I think looking at the time, we'll probably have to wrap it up there. But as I mentioned, we'll try to capture any unanswered questions and put together some text for our website at the end of today. So I just wanted to share a bit more information that might be of interest to people on the webinar. Daniel, if you could just, yeah, great. We run some online training sessions on digital accessibility. You can find out more about this at abilitynet.org.uk/training. And there's an exclusive 10% off discount code available to registrants of this particular webinar, which is Social Media 10. And then if you can move to the next slide, please. And then we've also got our newsletter. So if you sign up to that for the latest announcements on digital accessibility at abilitynet.org.uk/newsletter. And we have a YouTube channel, podcast, and a suite of accessibility services to suit your organisation. And then finally, don't forget about our next webinars at abilitynet.org.uk/webinars. The next session is on Tuesday, the 10th of November with Christopher Patno, who heads up digital accessibility at Google. And then just confirmed after that is how to spot an online scam and avoid it. And that's on the 24th of November. So thank you, Daniel, and everyone that's joined us, and we'll be in touch with you soon. Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone.